There are debts that don't appear in any bank on earth, but that weigh upon the soul like invisible chains. They are spiritual debts, broken promises, words cast in vain, actions that unbalance the thread of divine justice. Paramahansa Yogananda warned that no one escapes the law of return. What we emit sooner or later returns to us multiplied. But he also revealed an almost unknown secret, a transmutation method capable of dissolving these debts without suffering, transforming karma into light. Have you ever felt that certain problems seem to pursue you even when you do everything right? Have you had the sensation of paying for something you don't even remember doing? This is a sign of active energetic debt, and as long as it's not settled, prosperity, love, and peace will remain blocked. What few know is that the soul can renegotiate its debts, not with guilt, but with consciousness. There is a way to repair, forgive, and rebalance the accounts with the universe. Prepare yourself, because today you will learn the rare technique that Yogananda taught his disciples, spiritual transmutation, the sacred process that cleans old records and returns to the soul the freedom it always deserved. Let me ask you something before we continue. Right here in the comments, which city and country you're watching this video from. It's inspiring to feel how these teachings of Paramahansa Yogananda are touching people from so many parts of the world. Now breathe deeply, because what comes next is the most important part. You will discover how to settle your spiritual debts and transform each error of the past into pure energy of liberation. What if every material debt you carry were merely the dense reflection of an unsettled spiritual debt? While you struggle to pay bills in the visible world, there is an invisible bank operating in more subtle dimensions where every thought is a deposit, every action is a withdrawal, and every intention is an energetic contract with the universe. Paramahansa Yogananda taught a truth that few understand. Man doesn't pay his true debts with coins, but with vibrations. Every imbalance you create by acting without love, by speaking without truth, by receiving without gratitude, by promising and not fulfilling, generates spiritual debt that needs to be settled, if not in this life, in the next ones, until the cosmic scale returns to perfect balance. But here's what almost no one dares to consider. Just as in the material world you can renegotiate debts, offer alternative payments, or even receive forgiveness from generous creditors, in the spiritual world there exists a sacred art of transmutation that allows settling soul debts through means that transcend the mere mechanical repetition of suffering. You are not condemned to pay eternally for what you did wrong. You are being invited to awaken to a new form of balancing the accounts, not through compulsory pain, but through expanded consciousness, practiced love, offered service. Today you will discover the secrets that spiritual masters have known for millennia about how to negotiate with the invisible bank of karma, how to transmute heavy debts into credits of light, and how to finally free yourself from the energetic chains that bind you to repetitive cycles of suffering. In the spiritual world, there exists a bank that never closes, never fails, and maintains absolutely precise records of every energetic transaction you've ever made. Not as punishment from a vengeful God, but as natural law of cause and effect operating at levels more subtle than physical. This bank is called the law of karma, Sanskrit word, that simply means action, and its function is to maintain the perfect balance of the universe through the inevitable return of all energy you emitted. When you act with love, you generate spiritual credit. When you act with selfishness, you generate debt. Simple as that. Visualize karma as a vast ocean where every action of yours creates a wave that propagates until it finds an obstacle and returns to its origin. You throw a stone of anger, and the wave of anger eventually returns, hitting your own shore. You send a thought of blessing, and the wave of blessing returns, bringing unexpected gifts. Most live unconscious of this mechanism, thinking their actions are lost in the void, that no one sees, that there are no consequences. But the universe sees everything, records everything, and returns everything, not always immediately, but inevitably. What you sow today, you reap tomorrow, or in 10 lifetimes. But you reap. An honest merchant spent his entire life treating customers with impeccable justice, even when he could cheat without being discovered. He died modestly, without spectacular wealth. His children complained, "Father was so honest and didn't get rich." It doesn't pay to be good. But in the following generation, this man's grandchildren prospered in mysterious ways. Opportunities arose from nowhere. People helped for no apparent reason. Luck followed them. A sage who knew the family explained, "You are harvesting the spiritual credits that your grandfather accumulated. He paid in advance for your prosperity through his impeccable integrity." The Bank of Karma honors all deposits, even if the depositor is no longer alive to withdraw. Begin today to keep conscious accounting of your energy. Buy a small notebook and call it Book of Spiritual Accounts. At night, before sleeping, make an honest balance. Arstio. Today, did I act with love or with selfishness? Did I speak truth or did I lie for convenience? Did I receive and give thanks or did I receive and take it as a right? Did I promise and fulfill or did I promise and forget? Write without judgment, just observing patterns. And when you identify debt, moment when you acted badly, don't sink into paralyzing guilt. Simply acknowledge, I generated debt here. How can I begin to settle it? This awareness is the first step, because a debt you don't recognize, you cannot pay, and unpaid debt accumulates karmic interest that multiplies life after life. Karma is not punishment, it is education. Every time life returns to you the consequence of your past actions, it's not God punishing you, but the universe teaching you through direct experience what your actions cause. Did you hurt someone with cruel words? One day, you will feel in your own flesh the pain of being hurt by words. Not because you deserve to suffer, but because you need to learn viscerally, not just intellectually, how your actions affect others. This is the supreme pedagogy. You cannot genuinely understand what you cause until you experience the effect. Think of the child who hits a classmate without understanding the pain it causes. Words from parents, "Don't do that, it hurts," have limited impact. But when she falls, gets hurt, and cries, she finally understands the nature of pain. And then, when she sees another getting hurt, genuine compassion is born because she knows that pain from her own experience. Karma works like this. Every suffering you go through because of others, actions is probably an echo of suffering you caused to others at some point, perhaps in this life, perhaps in previous lives. And the purpose is not to destroy you, but to teach you compassion through the shared experience of vulnerability. There was a woman who harshly judged homeless people, calling them lazy and failures. She had a stable job, her own house, comfortable life. Then came a brutal economic crisis. She lost everything: job, house, dignity. She spent 6 months living in a shelter, depending on others' charity. The humiliation was devastating. But when she finally recovered years later, she was a completely different person. She dedicated her life to helping homeless people, viscerally understanding what she had previously judged superficially. One day someone asked, "Why did this happen to you?" She responded with tears of gratitude. It wasn't punishment. It was healing. I had a debt of compassion. I judged without understanding. The universe placed me exactly in the position of those I judged so that I would learn to never judge again. It was painful, but it was liberating. When life returns to you a harsh consequence of past action, don't ask, "Why me?" with the self-pity of a victim. Ask, "What for?" with the curiosity of a student. Every difficulty carries a lesson. Difficult people on your path may be settling with you a debt from when you were a difficult person to others. Illnesses may be teaching patience, compassion for the sick, appreciation of health. Financial losses may be dissolving excessive material attachment. When you change perspective from "I'm being punished" to "I'm being taught," everything transforms. You stop resisting karma and begin to extract from it the learning that accelerates your settlement. Declare daily, "I accept the lessons that life brings me. Every difficulty is a disguised teacher. I learn, I grow, I free myself." Spiritual debts rarely appear with clear labels saying, "This is a karmic charge for what you did in 1847. They manifest disguised as inexplicable, repetitive patterns in your current life. That person who always appears to irritate you. There's probably mutual energetic debt between you that needs to be settled. That financial situation that never resolves, no matter how much you work. It may be a reflection of material dishonesty in past existences, that relationship that always ends in the same painful way. There's a lesson about love you're avoiding learning. The external world is a merciless mirror of the internal balance of your soul. If your life is full of betrayal, ask, where did you betray? If your life is full of abandonment, ask, who did you abandon? If your life is full of scarcity, ask, with whom were you stingy? Not as an exercise in masochistic guilt, but as honest diagnosis that allows adequate treatment. You cannot heal a disease that hasn't been diagnosed, and you cannot pay a debt you don't recognize exists. A spiritual therapist was seeing a man who complained that all the women he knew betrayed him. First wife betrayed, second betrayed, girlfriends betrayed, consistent and painful pattern. He insisted he was a victim of bad luck. But the therapist guided him in deep meditation to access past life memories. The man saw clearly, in a previous life, he had been a woman who systematically betrayed a faithful husband, causing him immense suffering. The debt was being paid through inverted experience. He now felt in his own soul the pain he had caused. When he recognized this, when he asked genuine forgiveness to the spirit of that man he hurt, when he committed to never betray anyone again in this life or any other, something changed. In 6 months, he met a woman of solid character. They married, she never betrayed him. The pattern was broken because the lesson was learned and the debt was recognized. Do a profound exercise of identifying your pending bills. Take paper, divide it into 3 columns. Repetitive patterns in my life. Possible. Karmic origin. How can I settle? In the first column, honestly list the problems that repeat, relationships that fail the same way, money that slips through fingers, recurring illnesses, conflicts with authority. In the second column, meditate on possible origin. What imbalance did I cause that now returns as a lesson? In the third column, plan reparative action. How can I act differently now to break the cycle? For example, pattern, I'm always passed over for promotions. Possible origin, maybe in a past life I prevented others from progressing. Reparative action, I will actively help colleagues develop. This practice brings transformative clarity about invisible debts that govern your visible life. The truth of spiritual debt and its settlement is not exclusive to one religion or culture. It is a universal principle recognized by all serious spiritual paths. In Hinduism, the word karma describes exactly this system of cosmic debit and credit, while dharma represents conscious payment through correct actions. Doing your dharma, fulfilling your duty with integrity, is a way to settle accumulated negative karma. In Buddhism, the wheel of samsara, the cycle of death and rebirth, continues turning until all accounts are settled and all attachments are released. In mystical Christianity, Jesus explicitly taught about spiritual debts when he said, "Forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors." He wasn't just talking about money. He was teaching profound spiritual mechanics. You have debts with the divine when you act against love, and others have debts with you when they act against you. And the supreme payment is not eye for eye, but mutual forgiveness, conscious cancellation of accounts through grace. In Sufi Islam, there is the concept of purification of the soul through charity and service that compensates for past errors. There was a sage who traveled among different spiritual traditions, studying their scriptures. In each one, he found the same truth expressed in different languages. Hindus spoke of karma and reincarnation, Buddhists of causes and conditions, Christians of sowing and reaping, Jews of measure for measure, Muslims of actions being weighed on Judgment Day. He understood these aren't different systems. It's one law being explained in diverse cultural dialects. The universe maintains perfect accounting, and all traditions agree. Love, service, and conscious awakening are the only currencies accepted to settle spiritual debts. Recognize the universality of this law to escape limiting dogmatism. You don't need to believe in reincarnation to understand that your actions have energetic consequences. You don't need to be Hindu to understand that cause generates effect. You don't need to be Christian to practice forgiveness as a tool of karmic liberation. Truth transcends religious labels. Use universal prayer. Great intelligence that maintains the balance of all things. I recognize that I generated imbalances through unconscious actions. I commit myself now to restore harmony through conscious actions of love, truth, and service. Guide me in the wise settlement of my spiritual debts. All traditions honor this sincere intention, because all serve the same universal law that governs the return of energy. There exists a powerful technique taught by Eastern and Western masters to accelerate the settlement of spiritual debts. The alchemy of conscious forgiveness combined with sacred breathing. This practice is not passive visualization, but active energetic work that literally dissolves karmic knots accumulated over incarnations. When you truly forgive, not superficially, but in the depths of the soul, you are canceling energetic debt that kept you bound to that person or situation in repetitive cycles of suffering. Forgiveness operates on two simultaneous levels. First, you forgive those who owe you, people who hurt you, betrayed you, abandoned you, failed you. By forgiving them, you're not saying what they did was right. You're saying, I release you from the energetic prison I created by holding rancor. And I release myself from the prison of being energetically tied to you through resentment. Second, you ask forgiveness from those you owe, people you hurt, betrayed, abandoned, failed. By asking forgiveness sincerely, even if only energetically, if the person is no longer alive or accessible, you are acknowledging the debt and offering energy of genuine repentance as first payment. A woman carried deep hatred of the father who abandoned her in childhood. This hatred imprisoned her in repetitive relationships with emotionally unavailable men, karmically paying for unreleased hurt. The therapist taught the breathing forgiveness technique. For 30 days, she practiced, visualized her father, breathed deeply while saying, I receive your request for forgiveness, exhaled while saying, I forgive you and release you. In the first days, the anger was so intense she could barely pronounce the words. But she persisted. On the 20th day, something broke. She cried convulsively, but the tears were of release, not pain. The following month, she met an emotionally present and healthy man. The 30-year pattern was broken in 30 days of dedicated practice. Practice now the complete protocol of karmic transmutation through breathing. Sit comfortably, spine erect, hands over the heart. Close your eyes. Breathe deeply 3 times, just to center yourself. Then bring to mind someone you need to forgive. Start with small offenses if the large ones seem impossible still. Visualize this person before you. Inhale deeply while visualizing golden light descending from the universe over you. It is energy of divine grace. Hold the breath for 3 seconds while declaring mentally, I receive forgiveness from the divine. Exhale slowly while visualizing this golden light flowing from you to the person and declare, I forgive you and release you completely. Repeat 10 times for each person, then reverse. Bring to mind someone you need to ask forgiveness from. Inhale, receiving light. Exhale, sending your sincere request for forgiveness. This daily practice dissolves karmic debts faster than decades of unconscious suffering would. Here is the secret that few understand about settling spiritual debts. The final payment is not made in pain, not made in time, not made in sacrifice. It is made in expanded consciousness. When you truly awaken, when your consciousness elevates from identification with small ego to recognition of the divine self, you literally transmute negative karma into wisdom. It's like an alchemist who transforms lead into gold. The heavy lead of your past actions doesn't disappear, but is refined into the gold of spiritual understanding. The cosmic bank doesn't want your suffering, it wants your growth. If you can learn the lesson and elevate your consciousness without needing to suffer the complete physical consequence, the universe accepts this alternative payment. This is why a saint can have heavy karma from past lives, but not suffer intensely in this life, because he already reached the understanding that that karma was trying to teach. The currency of consciousness has infinitely greater value than the currency of suffering, because it truly transforms who you are, while suffering without consciousness only perpetuates cycles. A Buddhist monk explained to the confused Western disciple, "Imagine you owe someone 1,000 coins. You can pay coin by coin, working 200 years, or you can discover a gold mine, extract a valuable nugget, and pay everything at once." Unconscious suffering is paying coin by coin. Conscious awakening is finding the gold mine. When you reach sudden enlightenment, profound understanding of the nature of reality, genuine compassion for all beings, complete disidentification from ego, you instantly pay debts accumulated over thousands of lives, because you became what karma was trying to teach you to be from the beginning. Dedicate yourself to conscious awakening as maximum priority. Meditate daily, not as mechanical obligation, but as profound dive into the mystery of your own being. Study spiritual wisdom, not to accumulate knowledge, but to transform understanding. Practice active compassion, not to be good, but because you genuinely see everyone as extensions of yourself. Every degree of expansion of your consciousness automatically settles spiritual debts, because you are becoming what all karmic debts were trying to force you to be, an awakened, loving, free being. Use powerful affirmation. I pay my spiritual debts, not through suffering, but through awakening. Every day I expand my consciousness. I free myself from ancient karmic chains. I become light that dissolves all darkness of the past. True settlement is not paying the past. It is vibrating so high in the present that the past purifies itself by resonance. Understanding without application is like possessing $1 million check but never cashing it. Now that you understand the mechanics of spiritual debts, you need to translate it into concrete daily actions that genuinely settle your debts and accumulate credits. The first transformative practice is radical gratitude, giving thanks even to those who hurt you, recognizing they were unconscious instruments of your karmic purification. When you can look at who betrayed you and feel genuine gratitude for having been a disguised teacher teaching you forgiveness, you transmute poison into medicine. The second practice is consistent altruistic service. Every act of genuine help, especially when there is no recognition, no payment, no visible return, is direct deposit in your spiritual account. Donate time to those who need it. Offer skill to those who cannot pay. Listen with total presence to those who are suffering. Small daily acts of selfless kindness accumulate into massive credits that compensate for past debts. And here's what few perceive. When you serve others, you are often serving spiritual versions of yourself in other incarnations, settling debts you contracted when you were in the position of those you now help. There was a wealthy businessman who spent the first half of his life accumulating fortune through questionable methods. Not illegal, but ethically dubious. He felt a growing emptiness despite material success. In spiritual crisis at 15, he sought out a master who told him, "You generated heavy karma through greed. You can spend it through conscious donation now." The businessman began using half of his fortune for social projects, not as arrogant charity, but as humble service. He built schools in slums, financed medical treatments for poor families, employed ex-prisoners giving second chances. He did everything anonymously without seeking recognition. In 10 years, he transformed completely, not just externally but internally, the peace that money never bought, service brought. He understood he was settling through correct actions the debts generated by wrong actions, and the universe accepts payment in this currency. Establish concrete practices of daily karmic settlement. First, mentally thank 3 people who challenged you, not falsely, but genuinely recognizing the lesson they brought. Second, perform at least 1 anonymous act of kindness per day. Pay for a stranger's coffee, help an elderly person cross the street, donate something you value. Third, rigorously honor your material commitments. Pay bills on time, fulfill promises made, return what you borrowed. Impeccable material responsibility is also a form of settling karma. Fourth, transform guilt into action. Every time you feel guilt for a past error, instead of ruminating paralyzed, do something concrete to compensate. Did you hurt someone with words? Speak 3 kind words to another person today. Did you receive and not give thanks? Give deep thanks the next time you receive anything. Use active mantra. Pali ko, my actions today pay yesterday's debts and create credits for tomorrow. I serve, I love, I grow. With each conscious act, I free myself. When you finally understand the profound purpose of spiritual debts, everything transforms. What was oppressive weight becomes wise teacher. What was incomprehensible punishment becomes precious opportunity for accelerated growth. You stop resisting karma and begin to dance with it, extracting from each challenge the diamond of wisdom that was hidden in the coal of difficulty. This is supreme alchemy, transforming suffering into power, debt into lesson, karma into dharma. In this elevated state of consciousness, you begin to see patterns that were previously invisible. That difficult person at work who constantly irritates you, you recognize them as a mirror showing an aspect of yourself that needs to be worked on. That stressful financial situation that never resolves. You see it as a teacher teaching detachment, creativity, trust in the universe. That relationship that ended painfully. You understand it as a portal to learn self-love, healthy boundaries, conscious choices. Nothing is random. Everything is curriculum perfectly designed by cosmic intelligence to graduate you from the school of duality. A prisoner serving a long sentence for violent crimes of the past began to meditate in his cell after years of anger and resistance. In deep meditation, he had a devastating insight. In a previous life, he had been a corrupt judge who condemned innocents for bribes. Karma was being settled through inverted experience. He was now incarcerated not only for crimes of this life, but to learn viscerally the injustice he caused in the previous incarnation. This understanding didn't eliminate his responsibility, but completely transformed his experience. He stopped seeing himself as a victim of the system and began seeing himself as a student in intensive class on divine justice. He used years in prison to meditate, study, help other prisoners. When he finally got out, he dedicated his life to working with restorative justice. What could have been a decade lost in bitterness became a decade of accelerated karmic purification. Live from this transformed perspective. When difficulty comes, and it will continue coming, while there are unsettled debts, breathe deeply and ask, what wisdom is hidden in this situation? What aspect of me is being refined? What ancient debt is being settled? Instead of fleeing the challenge, dive into it consciously, extracting every drop of available learning. Keep a journal of karmic transformation, challenge faced today, lesson learned, debt possibly settled, wisdom integrated. At the end of each week, reread and perceive the pattern. You're not being randomly punished, you're being precisely educated. Use a powerful declaration, I transform all karma into dharma. Every spiritual debt is a step on my ladder of ascension. I accept, I learn, I free myself. The universe conspires for my awakening through every experience, difficult or easy. I trust the process. I am free. We have reached the end of this revelation about spiritual debts and their settlement, but you are only at the beginning of your journey of conscious karmic liberation. Everything that has been shared is not theory for philosophical debate, but a practical map for navigation in the invisible bank of karma where you have had open accounts for millennia. The liberating truth is this: you are not condemned to suffer eternally paying past debts. You are being invited to awaken now, transmuting all accumulated weight into light of expanded consciousness. When you finally understand that the universe doesn't want your suffering, but your growth, that every spiritual debt is a disguised opportunity for accelerated evolution, that elevated consciousness is the supreme currency accepted in all dimensions, then you are free. Free not because you eliminated all debts instantly, but because you completely changed your relationship with them. You stop being a resentful debtor and become a dedicated student. You stop fleeing from collections and begin settling them consciously through forgiveness, service, love, and awakening. And as you settle, as you release, as you purify yourself, something extraordinary happens. You discover you were never really a debtor. You always were, are, and always will be free spirit temporarily forgotten of your true nature. The debts were just necessary illusion to teach you what you needed to learn to remember who you really are. And now that you've learned, now that you've awakened, you can finally declare with absolute truth, I owe nothing more to the universe except my own radiant light, and this I give freely, joyfully, eternally.